Welcome to Seahawk Boys TV. I'm your host, Seahawk Boy Mike Barrett, in Las Vegas, Nevada, where it's about 100 degrees. Yet I'm still wearing a long sleeve Seahawks t-shirt with a lot of cat hair on it here. Yeah. All right. Anyway, all right. Great to be back with you guys. It is 1 week from today that the Seahawks make their season debut. Actually, is it a Monday game? I forget. Against the Denver Broncos. And I haven't posted in a while. I haven't done anything. And so we've got a lot to talk about. A lot of things have come up. A lot of things are being, there's a lot of controversy and a lot of disunity out there right now in Seahawks Twitter land. Everybody's all positive. Everybody thinks we're going to be great. Everybody thinks that Gino is infallible. But again, I do not exist. Some people seem to think I exist just to contradict the prevailing wisdom. I don't. I exist for the truth. I exist because we got to face reality about certain things. And I'm as optimistic. I'd like to be optimistic. I'm excited about the season starting. I always am. I went to the first game of the Pete Carroll era, 31-10 win over the 49ers in 2010. And of course, I finished 7-9 that season. Backed into the playoffs, won the division with a losing record, and then beat the defending champions, New Orleans Saints. So anyway, that was a cool start. Maybe the Mike McDonald era will get off to just as good a start. But, again, it comes down to one thing that most people don't want to address, which is that how this season goes is going to depend solely on the quarterback. All right, welcome back. Another quick edition of Seahawk Boys TV. There hasn't been a lot to talk about. The Seahawks set their 53-man roster. We're going to go over that a little bit. The Seahawks also set their schedule is set. We kind of know what's going on. We know what they've done, what they haven't done. And, I just thought I'd like to address, however, a little bit of controversy that's going on. There are some people on Twitter that I've really enjoyed interacting with. There's this big fat dude named LeSpoon who just is so in the tank for Geno Smith. It's insane. And I've disagreed with him. I've simply pointed out where he's wrong and some of the assumptions he makes. I've agreed with other people and he blocked me. And it's like, guys, that's not the way to do this. All right. Let's have our debates. It's sports. It's not politics. It's not life or death. It's not like if Kamala Harris is elected president, that it's going to be the end of the United States. It's not the stakes here. It's sports. It's a distraction. So keep it light. And there, again, if you don't use bad words with somebody, then it's pointless to block them. The only time I block anybody is when they just won't take the L. No matter how many times I defeat them, no matter how many times I show them that they're idiots, they still keep coming back. And that's the only time I block somebody, is when I just can't listen to it anymore. But I don't do that with Fat Boy LeSpoon. Neither is anybody else. Hawks Mania, Pacific Northwest. It's just really a shame that we get into this, because I'd like to keep him around. Now, I do have many alternate Twitter accounts. I have multiple alternate Twitter accounts. He's blocked me on 2 of them. I have him on another account. And when Gino doesn't get the job done, I'm going to be right there to rub it in his face and remind him of who I am. So that's the way it goes. It's a little bit petty, but hey, that's life. Life can be petty. So the thing is that I'm optimistic about this team in a lot of ways, except for the quarterback situation. And there's people that just don't seem to want to face the reality on that. And, it's come up again and again. And it goes back to, what do you think of this general manager? We're going to cover that in a minute. We're going to start with the roster. We're going to look at the 53-man roster real quick. We're going to look at an article Rob Staten did this week on how agents view Seahawks general manager John Schneider. And then we're going to look at the Seahawks schedule, and we're going to give him a win-loss record at the end of it. It's going to be different than I did way back in May when the schedule first came out, for absolute sure. So I think where we want to start, let's go back over here. Hopefully my audio is all good and everything. Where I want to go back to, first of all, is the Seahawks' current 53-man roster. So that's where we're going to start. And let's get that sucker in to the stream. And I will disappear over into the corner. Now, on offense, things look pretty good. I got to admit, the thing is, there's been this ongoing debate. And Brian Numskuller, who's now an accredited sports reporter for the Seahawks. It just kills me. It's like, I guess the way to do that is to just suck up to the team and management and come up with all sorts of ridiculous reasons why they never make a mistake, and that'll get you accredited to be a Seahawks reporter. I have no interest in being a Seahawks reporter. I have an interest in being a Seahawks truther. I am a Seahawks truther. That's what I am. But anyway, he was talking about how, this is really bad news that Drake May is going to sit out the first couple of games, at least for the New England Patriots, who the Seahawks play in week 2. And, the way to, they made the big mistake of going for the quarterback. And again, he's got his head up his ass. It's completely opposite. You want to get the quarterback. They did it the right way. So what if he sits for a year or two? So what? Aaron Rodgers sat for 4 years. Patrick Mahomes sat for 1 year. The guys who sit and learn how to be a professional typically end up being better pro quarterbacks. So I don't have any problem with the Patriots doing that. And no, the way to build a Super Bowl team is not to build the rest of the roster first and then go get your quarterback. It's not that. That doesn't work. We haven't had a less than elite quarterback winning the Super Bowl since, what was it? Nick Foles in 2015. That's almost 10 years ago now. It's only happened like 4 times in the last 28 years that a non-elite quarterback has won a Super Bowl, and that's because of generational defenses in the case of the 2000 Ravens. And by the way, Trent Dilfer was also, I think, the 8th overall pick in the draft. So he was an elite prospect coming out of college. Joe Flacco, again, an elite Ravens defense. Ray Lewis's last year. Nick Foles. And then Brad Johnson with Tampa Bay, who had an elite defense. But you have to understand, those days are over, okay? The rules changes in the NFL means you don't win with defense anymore. You win with elite quarterback play. So the league that was seriously skewed towards the offense back even in the 2010, 2015 period is now, with the rules changes, even more skewed towards the offense. So as a result, you have to have the elite quarterback to get to the Super Bowl, and we don't have one. And so, again, it's interesting as I talked about this with, or not talked about it, but listen to Rob Staten and guys like Brian Numskuller and Jeff Simmons, and they're all like, well, the Seahawks, are contenders. My question is, contenders for what? No, they're not. When you say somebody is a contender, that means to me they're a contender to win the Super Bowl. The Seahawks are not. I don't care how well the rest of the offense plays. With Geno Smith at quarterback, they are not. Hi there, Bigfoot Softwash. Hi, Larry. Hi, Polly Skirt. How are you doing? Nice to have a few people in here on a Sunday. You're not a contender unless you have a chance to win a Super Bowl. And with Geno Smith, the Seahawks don't have a chance to win a Super Bowl. He's 4-15, I believe, all time against teams with better than 500 records. Now, having said that, looking at the roster, looking at the way things are going from an energetic perspective, there's a lot of turmoil in San Francisco right now. Contract holdouts. Ayuk just recently signed. He's not going to be happy. There's turmoil there. And their other receiver, Ricky Pearsall, their insurance policy just got shot yesterday in shithole San Francisco. So I think, quite honestly, it's entirely possible, if not plausible, that they take a drop down. And also, the team that loses the Super Bowl frequently doesn't make the playoffs next year. So there is a chance, if Geno has one of his best seasons, a season closer to 2022 than 2023, the Seahawks could sneak in and win this division with a 10-7 or 11-6 record. It's possible, because the 49ers could have strife and turmoil and injuries and take a step back. But we'll wait and see on that. But they're not contenders. The Seahawks are not contenders. If you by that you mean contenders to win the Super Bowl. They are contenders to be in the playoffs, to win a wild card spot. 6 or 7, and possibly to win 1 game. That's what they're contenders for. But let's go back over the roster now and see how John Schneider constructed this roster and basically just what we've got to work with here. And it is pretty good. I argue that I would sell a lot of these guys away for a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Okay, so we still have John Schneider as a general manager. Mike McDonald is the head coach. Ryan Grubb, it's all preseason, but Grubb looks like our offense is starting to look like a modern offense. It looks like a 21st century offense. So, I'm excited about that possibility. Arden Durda, we don't know about him yet, but he's got to be better. He's got to be a better defensive coordinator than Clint Hurtt or Ken Norton or anybody else has been here. And, it's the coaching situation is immeasurably better. So I think we can add a win or two to that. They played with a lot more discipline and brains in the preseason, and that was a good sign, although the preseason means nothing. And also, I'm going to remind you of something Seahawk boy Dave Barra says. You are neither as good or as bad as you look in week 1. So no matter what happens next Sunday, a week from today, take it with a grain of salt. If we're awful and we lose, doesn't mean we're a bad team. If we're great and we win, doesn't mean we're going to be a great team. But let's look at the roster. Okay, so they went with, of course, DK Metcalf, the guy I still think they should trade for whatever picks they can get, a 2nd and a 5th, a 1st and a 4th, and get him off the books, because by the time they're going to have to pay DK next year because he's going to hold out in his last year if he doesn't get a new contract. And they're going to have to pay the kind of money that Ayuk just got and the other receivers are getting, and it's going to be astronomical. And I'm not saying he's not worth it. What I'm saying is, by the time we solve this problem, the quarterback problem, DK is going to be over 30, and we're going to be paying him ridiculous coin. And I would say, even though I don't want to because he's our best player, trade him now, take the cap space, take the draft picks, go find your quarterback. But that's just if I own the team. Behind him is Jake Bobo. Bobo, of course, is a local hero, had a great rookie season, undrafted free agent. Tyler Lockett's been injured. I assume he's going to play, but, he's getting up there, and we're hoping that he gets healthy. The slot receiver, Jackson Smith-Njigba, I'm hearing good things. There are people talking about how they can't believe, this new Seahawks coaching staff can't believe the way Smith-Njigba was used. Njigba was used last year, that he was totally misused. They could have gotten so much more out of him. Behind them, Laviska Shenault had a great preseason. Derek Young, I don't get it. I guess his special teams or something. I wouldn't have kept him over Easop Winston. Some of the other guys I liked better at receiver, but they kept him for whatever reason. Left tackle Charles Cross. Stone Forsythe is better than you think at left tackle. He gets trashed, but he's better than you think. Laken Tomlinson apparently is going to start at left guard. Satoa Lamua, one of their draft picks from this year, is going to be backing him up. Connor Williams is going to be the starter. Oluwole Matimi, and Jalen Sundell is the third center. They got 3 centers. Anthony Bradford and Christian Haynes are on the right side. Look, you drafted Haynes in the 3rd round. Okay, move him to left guard. You've got to get your best 5 guys out there. And that might include George Fant. Right now, George Fant is the right tackle. Michael Jarrell is there. And unfortunately, Abe Lucas isn't ready to start the season. He's on PUP. We're not going to have him. And that's upsetting because he's a terrific player. That's what sold me really on Rob Staten in the beginning. That's what sold me on Rob, was when he said, look, Abe Lucas is a 1st round talent. He should go in the 1st round. And he didn't go to the 3rd round, 72nd pick, right where a lot of people had him pegged. And maybe there was some injury concerns we didn't know about. Maybe that's why. But the Seahawks got a bargain in Abe Lucas, but only if he can play. And really, this is his last chance. If he doesn't get on the field by week 5 or 6 or 7 or whenever he can come back and play the rest of the year and play and stay healthy, got to find the new right tackle. Luckily, we have George Fant there for now. Mike Jarrell, I thought, did a pretty good job in the preseason, made the team. I felt like Curtis did a good job and should have made the team, but didn't. So no complaints there. Tight end, Noah Fant's been injured. Hopefully he starts. Farrell Brown is garbage. AJ Barner and Brady Russell are behind them. Brady Russell should be here at tight end number 2. He's the best player out of the group. He's the most balanced player. He can run, he can catch, he can block. Farrell Brown I don't know why they kept him. Oh, he's such a great blocker in the run game. Well, so what? When you know Farrell Brown is in the game, if you are the defense and you see Farrell Brown in the game, you're 99% sure it's going to be a run play. Just telling you that doesn't buy you anything. From my perspective, I would not have kept him. I would have gone with Fant, Russell, and Barner, and found another roster spot for somebody like Jamie Sheriff, who is now going to go to the Panthers and probably have 8 sacks this year as a rookie. Something the Seahawks could really use, but it is what it is. We are stuck. Hey, Jane Meyer. Hey, Myrtle Mayhem. How are you? Is that Myrtle Beach? But we're stuck with what we got. So now you slide down, of course, to the next position, which is really the critical one. And we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about it because I talked about it before. We got Geno Smith and Sam Howell. Geno looked great in his one preseason series that he played. It's preseason. DK Metcalf dominated a smaller, shorter defensive back who he pushed off on to get the touchdown. He's going to get away with that sometimes. He's also going to get a penalty on that sometimes for offensive pass interference. I don't think we can tell much from that, but yeah, the offense looked very efficient. Looks like Geno knows it very well. Looks like it suits his talents. The issue with Geno is always this: big games, big moments. Does he come through? Can he come through? Will he fumble the ball? Will he throw a bad interception at the wrong time against the best teams? Is he good enough? He was mid last year. He was 17th ranked out of the 32 starting quarterbacks. The Seahawks will go exactly as far as Geno can take them. And even Geno's best 2022, Geno's best season, 2022, Geno would not have won the Super Bowl for the Seahawks in 2013. Russell Wilson is an exceptional talent who played his best in big games. The Seahawks would not have gotten past the 49ers in the NFC Championship, and there would be no Super Bowl in Seattle. That's the reality of Geno. However, let's hope, let's pray, and let's say Geno gets through it. The other thing, and this is, I think, what got me blocked by Big Fat LaSpoon over there on Twitter, is that, Geno consistently throughout his career has just failed to come up big in the biggest games and the biggest moments. Little city stuff there. Sam Howell, he's backup. They traded the equivalent of a 3rd round pick for a backup player. There were lots of things they could have done at quarterback that would have made me feel better. They could have drafted Spencer Rattler, who's lit it up in New Orleans Saints camp and is going to be their starter there in a couple years, who has way more upside than Sam Howell and more upside than Geno Smith. They chose not to for character issues, yet they drafted Byron Murphy, who apparently owes $15,000 to a trans prostitute. Because character, Seahawks draft for character. Running backs look good. Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, Kenny McIntosh. Both Walker and Charbonnet have had injury problems, as has McIntosh. 3 talented backs, 3 guys with injuries. They did not keep Holani, who I thought they would have kept, but oh well, there we are. Defense, a lot of older guys on defense. Jonathan Hankins, Leonard Williams, defensive end and nose tackle. Jaron Reed at defensive tackle. Draymond Jones is going to be a rush end. Weak side linebackers are Jerome Baker and Terrell Dodson. Uchenna Nwosu is going to miss 4 to 6 weeks. They didn't put him on IR. So they think he's probably going to be back in less than 4 weeks. Typically, that doesn't happen. So we shall wait and see. Behind them, Derek Hall, Boye Mafe, Tyrese Knight. This is a good, solid group on defense. Trey Brown at one corner. Tariq Woolen at the other. Devon Witherspoon is the nickelback. Rayshawn Jenkins and Julian Love are the safeties. Kevon Wallace, who had some big hits in preseason, and Kobe Bryant, who made some plays, are right there. And Travis Gibson is the new strong side linebacker, pass rusher. Again, this is where Jamie Sheriff, a homegrown talent, should have been given a chance. Obviously, they didn't know about the Nwosu injury when they traded traded away Darrell Taylor, and now they ended up with Travis Gibson, who he may or may not be as good as Darrell Taylor or Jamie Sheriff. And, I get this stuff like, well, he's only a pass rusher. Yeah, my answer to that is so. So he's only a pass rusher. Okay, he's only going to get 8 or 9 sacks as a rush end on third downs. Okay, I'll take that. So I don't, I'm not wild about that. So if you look at the rest of the roster, it looks pretty solid with good depth all the way through. The practice squad is George Holani's there. Tyler Mabry. I didn't think he did much in preseason. Winston Easop is still around. Artie Burns is injured. He'll probably come off when he's not injured. It's a solid roster at the positions for the position players. They don't have a great quarterback. And I don't know at this point what you do or can do about the quarterback position. The answer is not really much of anything. So that is who we're going to go with. That's our roster, and it's solid. But I would give away a lot of guys to see CJ Stroud sitting there, who they could have had in 2023. I'd give away a lot of these back end roster guys for Spencer Rattler, who lit it up, or Will Levis instead of Jackson Smith-Njigba. I'd take Will Levis, find another receiver somewhere else down the line. How about Puka Nacua? He went in the 5th round. So this brings us then to the evaluation of how good is our general manager? Is he really a guy that we can count on? Is he really a guy that we think is the guy to put this team together and get us back to a Super Bowl? Because that's what we're talking about. When we talk about contending, all we care about is winning a Super Bowl. Okay, not Myrtle Beach. Thank you, Myrtle Mayhem. Not Myrtle Beach. That's what we care about. It's winning a Super Bowl. So the question is John Schneider the guy to lead us to the Super Bowl? Well, Rob Staten did an article this week about Ben Standing had an interesting article in The Athletic. I don't subscribe to The Athletic. I don't pay for sports content because I can get it all for free on Twitter, and the analysis is just as good as the people who get paid professionally to do it. Anyway, they came away that he is highly respected, that he really liked Patrick Mahomes, but he didn't take him. He really liked Josh Allen. He didn't take him. You can go get him. So everybody talks about, if you look at it in terms of evaluations, here's some of the quotes from other general managers and other people in the he's a football guy, an outstanding talent evaluator with conviction about how to run a program. Good communicator. Schneider is a GM, the best talent evaluator, and very respected. Look at the front office staffers hired away from Seattle by other teams. There's more to come. John hasn't changed since he was a scout and avoids changing his evaluation methods for trendy takes. Trendy takes like you need to prioritize the quarterback position if you're going to win in NFL 2024. That right there, to me, this right here is actually a harsh criticism of John Schneider. John hasn't changed since he was a scout and avoids changing his evaluation methods for trendy takes. That, folks, is why the Seahawks have no real future at quarterback. Schneider's a man of great character. He communicates well, heck of a talent evaluator, and as a leader, he tries to work out situations with the player and the agents. So this is how agents and front office people view John Schneider. The Seahawks did not receive a single vote in a poll for best run franchise. And so, of course, I had some thoughts on this. He's a great talent evaluator. Oh, okay. Well, he drafted D. Eskridge instead of Creed Humphrey. He drafted L.J. Collier instead of Elton Jenkins. He drafted Jermaine Ifedi instead of Chris Jones. He drafted Paul Richardson instead of Devontae Adams. He drafted Cody Barton instead of Max Crosby. He drafted Malik McDowell instead of Budda Baker. He drafted Jordan Brooks instead of Patrick Queen. And he drafted Rashad Penny instead of Nick Chubb. And as I said, I'd give anything to see the Seahawks draft boards from 2017 to 2024. I bet they're hilarious. And I got 6 thumbs down over on Rob's blog about this. And I think Rob comes in and wants to argue with me too. So, I said it shows the Seahawks tally and evaluations are way off. How do you miss it? Devontae Adams is a better receiver than Paul Richardson. And then Rob comes in and says, so they have to draft a great player, every great player who enters the league. Nobody has a perfect record. The best GM to ever live, whoever that is, will have passed on a legendary player and drafted a bust at the same position instead. That's true. But, Bill Polian, who I keep hearing is a genius, traded Marshall Faulk for a 2nd and a 5th. But out of your top 3 picks every year, if you don't hit on one of them, there's something wrong with your process. Schneider freely admitted they used to reach for need, us explaining Jermaine Ifedi over Jones, Chris Jones, or Jaron Reed. But you also can't be a slave to the draft board. Sometimes you need to take a quarterback in the 4th round, even though you have a cornerback rated higher and already have 4 good ones on your roster. The Seahawks seem to have jumped from one extreme to another. And then Rob comes back with, you don't need to take that quarterback in the 4th round if you think they have no shot of making it. And he hasn't passed on any 4th-round quarterbacks in recent years who've gone on to make it, or any QBs. In fact, we'll see if Levis ends up being the first, given that he's starting this season in what appears to be a stable environment. Well, my only reply to that would be Spencer Rattler, who is lighting it up. And Rob knows I'm going to say that. So he's goading me, baiting me. I'm just going to keep it simple. Spencer Rattler. Okay, I agree, but I get tired of it happening every year. When was the last gem the Seahawks unearthed? Tariq Woolen 2 years ago. Okay. Maybe. The point is, this list is ridiculous. This was the Seahawks' first pick in 2020. This is the Seahawks' first pick in 2019. This is the Seahawks' first pick in 2016. This is the Seahawks' first pick in 2014. This is the Seahawks' 4th or 5th pick in 2018. This is the Seahawks' first pick in 2017. This is the Seahawks' first pick in 2020. D was 2021. Seahawks' first pick in 2018. The point is, if you know what you're doing, you can see the difference in these players. You don't have to get it perfect every time. You just need to get one of your top 3 picks right every year, and you will have a really good roster. And the Seahawks consistently don't do that. So while others are defending, John Schneider, I'm not going to. And if I were the Seahawks owner, the first thing I would do out of the gate is I would demand all the Seahawks draft boards from 2017 to 2024. And if they're as fucked up as I think they are, I'd probably fire the guy in the first half an hour. So we shall see. But, it's interesting how the other teams view him. I don't view him the same way. I think there was a lot of obvious choices. For instance, when they drafted Rashad Penny in 2018. And I was like, that year, I'm like, Bobby Wagner is 30 and KJ Wright is 30. This would be a great time to draft a young linebacker to come in behind those guys and fill in when we move on from them. Instead, they took Rashad Penny. They passed on Shaquille Darius Leonard, who's been the best linebacker in football the last 5 years. So that's the thing the Seahawks never do. They never look ahead. They never plan ahead. They don't seem to do anything except reach for need in the moment. And, thanks, Rob, for the response and being civil about it and debating it. But I don't agree. I don't agree about a lot of this stuff. And Tariq Woolen, one guy. And that was 3 years ago, by the way, not 2 years ago. So one guy, so much. So what? So, I think it's time for John Schneider to be put on the hot seat because he has not been on the hot seat yet. And it is probably way past time that we did that. Okay, now let's do one last thing here before we get out of here. Let's take a look at the schedule because this team does have some talent on offense, and it's some talent that needs to be exploited for the Seahawks to have a successful season. And, what's a successful season? Well, after 3 years of rebuilding after Russell Wilson, you should be ready to contend for a Super Bowl. You should at least get to the championship game. Winning your division, winning the playoffs should be a no-brainer. Winning in the playoffs should be a no-brainer. We're not at that point because I think they've mismanaged this process. But having said that, let's just go take a quick look over here at the Seahawks schedule and see what we think from a one-loss standpoint. Because I did this a couple months ago in May when it came out. I came up with 8-9. I think it's going to be better than that now. Denver Broncos, week 1, CBS. Going to be at what time? 1:05 p.m. Eastern. So by this time we'll be like through the first half in a week from now. Seahawks are going to win this game easily. Gino's going to come out efficient. He's going to throw the ball around. He's got great receivers. He's got great running backs. He's got a better offensive line than he had last year. He's got some good players there. And the Broncos don't have much talent on either side of the ball. Bo Nix is a wild card. He's a very talented player, but he's a rookie making his first start. I don't think he has a chance against the very complicated and disciplined Mike Macdonald defenses. So I do not expect this to be a close game. I think 37-17, something like that, will be the end result of this game. And the Seahawks come away with a week 1 victory. With a week 1 victory. So that's 1. Week 2, New England Patriots on the road, 10 a.m. This will be interesting because we're going to see how Mike Macdonald handles the 10 a.m. games. And one of the things that I have to give Pete Carroll some credit for is he was smart enough to have the Seahawks get up and practice at 10 a.m. every year. So that way their body clocks would be set to be awake at 10 a.m. in the morning. That is a problem for West Coast teams. It's documented. There have been studies on it. And if Mike Macdonald continues to do that, and if I was John Schneider, I would insist on it because I think it's an advantage to us playing at 10 a.m. The Seahawks should show up, and even if they're going against Jacoby Brissett instead of Drake May, and Jacoby Brissett's been injured, let's hope he doesn't get injured again, or let's hope he does. I think the Seahawks come out of there with a win in a much tighter game, and it will be really interesting to see if they sleepwalk through the first half of that game, or if they do the Pete Carroll thing and play like it's normal. All right, week 3 on at home against the Miami Dolphins. This is such a tough call for me because I think the Dolphins are a little bit better than the Seahawks, but it's not in Miami. It's at home in Seattle, and it's against Tua. And who knows Tua really, really well? Who knows Tua really? Mike Macdonald from his days in Baltimore. He knows how to defend Tua. He knows how to attack him. He knows what he does well. He knows what he doesn't do well. He's going to force him into the things he doesn't do well. I got to say, I think the fact that this is at home, it's a long road trip for the Dolphins, means the Seahawks start off 3-0. Now we go on the road to the Detroit Lions. Well, the last 2 years, again, this is how ridiculous the Seahawks or the NFL scheduling process is. I mean, it's totally ridiculous. They claim they have a rotational schedule. They don't. We've now played Detroit on the road in Detroit for 3 straight years. That's ridiculous. I don't mind a home and home, but you need to get a real rotational schedule so you play every team in the NFL every 4 years, 32 teams. Yeah, I don't know, divided. Yeah. And then home and away, back-to-back years. It's ridiculous. They're fucked up scheduling, but here we are with the Detroit Lions. So what's going to happen on the road? Look, Gino has played great against the Lions. He's kind of had their number. I don't really know what else to say about it. He's played great in Detroit. I don't see it 3 in a row. Lions are a good team. They were in the NFC Championship game last year. They should have won it if it wasn't for Dan Campbell. I think this is the Seahawks' first defeat, so we're 3-1. Now, week 5, the New York Giants back at home again. That's a win. Giants suck. Daniel Jones sucks. That's a win. So we are now 4-1. Week 6, the San Francisco 49ers at home again. Oh my God. I didn't realize we had so many home games. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow. 4 out of our first 5, 6 games. 4 out of our home. 2, 3, 4. Wow. That's okay. So now after beating the Giants at home, we get the 49ers at home. Now, the 49ers could be in disarray by this time, but I don't think they will be. And they do have a better roster than ours. I'm going to take a stab here and say 49ers win. Okay. So now we're 4-2. Then we go on the road to the Falcons again. This prediction may change based on how they look on their first 10 a.m. game. I think this is a W. The Falcons aren't very good. It might even be Michael Penix's first start. How ironic would that be? But no matter how good Penix is, and I think he's terrific, and I would have traded up for him. I think that we go to Mercedes-Benz Stadium and beat the Falcons. So we are now 5-2. Okay, Buffalo Bills at home again against the Buffalo Bills. This is a tough game to call. Tough game to call. But I think the Bills are better than the Seahawks. God, it's just so tough. My God, all of our games are at home. This has got to be a misprint. Isn't it a misprint? I mean, are we maybe going? Are we playing the Dolphins? I don't get it. All right. I think a good defensive team. He knows the Bills. He knows Josh Allen. I think that's a win. I think that's a win. I think we go to 6-2 at that point. LA Rams at home. I'm going to take us at home. 7-2. Wow. 49ers on the road. That's a loss. 7-3. Cardinals at home. That's a win. 8-3. Jets on the road. That's a loss. 8-4. Cardinals on the road. That's a win. 8-5. Or sorry, 9-4. Packers at home. I think Packers come in and beat us. So yeah, 8-5. Vikings win. Bears win. Rams loss. At Chargers win. They're terrible. At Titans, I think they win. I think they lose. I think the Titans win that game. Home for the Browns. All right, I have the Seahawks 10-7. That's what I think. 10-7 should be good enough to get in the playoffs, and they have a legit shot at 11-6. They have a legit shot at 11-6 with this schedule. So that's pretty extraordinary. I mean, I don't know. It's better than I expected. But you look, there's some games it's really tough to tell. Bills could come into Seattle with a big boy attitude and just break us. But you don't know. You don't know what happens till you see who teams are. Who teams are and what they did. So I'm pretty optimistic about that. I think that's a good, decent record and a good start to the Mike McDonald era. But the problem is, they haven't long-term solved their quarterback problem. And until they get a quarterback who's better than Geno, we're not real Super Bowl contenders. The last part of this that I think is relevant is Geno is 34, and he missed some training camp time with an injury on a very light hit. He missed 2 games last year on a pretty light hit. You got to wonder, is he going to be too brittle at this age? And if he is, and we have to go to Sam Howell, it all goes out the window. Because Sam Howell is a backup quarterback at best. On his best day, he's Drew Lock. He's a shorter Drew Lock. And we didn't improve there in the offseason, and that remains the problem. All right, I think that is going to do it for today. Everybody, thanks for being here. Let's call that the preview. Let's call it 10-7 and see what happens. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting, and it's going to be different, and that's the key thing. At least it's going to be different. And again, before you question me, don't forget, I was 2 years ahead of the curve on getting rid of Pete Carroll, and look how much good that's going to do us. All right, everybody. I'll see you later this week. Probably do a live stream or some sort of stream next week after the game. Maybe we'll make this a weekly thing after games and just do a game review. It's pretty tough to do a game review when you're not allowed to show highlights because YouTube hits you with a copyright thing. But that's okay. You can still see it on Rumble. All right, guys. Thanks for being here. Have a great Sunday. Have a great Memorial Day. And I'll be back soon. Bye.